Welcome to the world of politics, where trust seems to be in short supply. Did you know that a staggering 75% of Americans say they don't trust their politicians? This number is growing every year, and it raises a big question. If we don't trust our leaders, who's really running the country? Think about it. In 2022, over $4 billion was spent on lobbying in the United States. That's more than the budget for education. With all this money flowing into politics, it's no wonder people feel disconnected from their leaders. In this video, we'll uncover the surprising forces at play behind the scenes. We'll dive into the world of lobbyists, who often have more say than the politicians we vote for. We'll explore how unelected bureaucrats shape laws without ever facing the public. And we'll look at tech giants and military power players who quietly influence our lives every day. But that's not all. We'll also discuss how grassroots movements are rising up and challenging the status quo. As trust in politicians fades, everyday people are taking charge. So stick around, and let's uncover the truth together. Chapter 1: The puppet masters behind the curtain. When we talk about politicians, it's easy to picture them as the ones calling the shots. But what if they're not? What if there are other forces pulling the strings? The truth is, powerful lobbyists and corporate giants often have more influence than we think. A 2020 study by Open Secrets revealed that over $3.5 billion was spent on lobbying in the US alone. That's a huge amount of money flowing into the hands of decision-makers. It's no secret that big corporations want laws in their favor, and with that much cash, they get what they want. One example? The pharmaceutical industry. They spent over $300 million in lobbying in 2019, according to Statista. And what did they get in return? Policies that protect drug prices, often leaving citizens stuck with sky-high medical bills. Politicians might be the face of the law, but the real power lies with the money behind them. Think about it, can a politician truly act independently when they're constantly being courted by these lobbyists? Former US Senator John McCain once said, "Lobbyists are people who write our laws." Literally. That's a scary thought, isn't it? These are people you've never voted for, yet they play a direct role in shaping the policies that affect your daily life. It's not just big business. There are also special interest groups, organizations that advocate for specific issues. Whether it's gun rights, environmental policy, or healthcare, these groups often have a louder voice than the average voter. The New York Times once called them the shadow government. And they might be right. Politicians rely on these groups for support and funding, so they often end up prioritizing their interests over what's best for the public. It begs the question, who's really running the country if politicians are just one piece of the puzzle? Chapter 2: The unelected bureaucrats who hold the strings. Ever heard of the deep state? It's not some conspiracy theory. It's real, and it's made up of unelected officials who keep the government running regardless of who's in power. These career bureaucrats work behind the scenes, and they often have more influence on day-to-day policies than elected officials. In fact, a 2017 Reuters survey found that nearly 70% of Americans believe bureaucrats have too much power. The truth is, bureaucrats don't just manage paperwork, they shape policies. These are people who have been in government for decades, outlasting multiple administrations. Their deep knowledge of systems makes them indispensable, but it also means they can push their own agendas. A fascinating study published by the Brookings Institution shows that long-term bureaucrats have a lasting influence on government policies, especially in areas like national security and healthcare. For example, the Defense Department is packed with career officials who handle everything from military strategy to budget allocations. These people never have to face an election, yet their decisions can affect the entire country. And because of their expertise, politicians often defer to them. That's not always a bad thing. After all, they know the system inside out, but it does mean they have a lot of unchecked power. One telling story comes from former Defense Secretary Robert Gates, who said in his memoir Duty that the Pentagon bureaucracy was so deeply entrenched that even presidents struggled to push reforms through. Imagine that, even the commander-in-chief can't always get things done because the system is so heavily guarded by unelected officials. Bureaucrats aren't necessarily corrupt, but their power is immense. And because they stay in place while politicians come and go, their influence can shape the nation's direction for years, if not decades. So while we may vote for new leaders, the machinery of government often stays the same, driven by the hands of those who've been there the longest. Chapter 3: Media, the silent governor. It's no secret that the media plays a huge role in shaping public opinion, but have you ever thought about how much power they really have? In many ways, the media acts as a silent governor, framing the narratives that politicians and the public follow. A 2020 Pew Research study found that 86% of Americans believe the media has a significant influence on political outcomes. That's an overwhelming majority. When the media decides to focus on a particular issue, it often forces politicians to address it, even if it wasn't part of their original agenda. Take climate change, for example. A few decades ago, it wasn't a hot political topic. But now, thanks in large part to media coverage, it's a key issue in almost every major election. It works the other way, too. When the media downplays or ignores a story, it can disappear from public debate. This selective coverage is often driven by media ownership. Just 5 companies own about 90% of all US media outlets, according to Business Insider. These conglomerates have their own interests, and what gets airtime might align more with their business goals than with what's best for the public. Social media adds another layer to this influence. Platforms like Facebook and Twitter use algorithms that promote content based on engagement, not necessarily accuracy. In fact, research from MIT shows that false information spreads 6 times faster than the truth on social media. That's a staggering statistic, and one that reveals how easily public opinion can be swayed by what people see online. A former CBS anchor, Dan Rather, once said, "The media can be the greatest power for good, or it can be the greatest power for evil." That's an important reminder. While the media plays a vital role in informing the public, it also has immense control over what we believe and how we act politically. And with that much power, the question becomes, are the media gatekeepers running the country? If you're enjoying this exploration of who's really in charge, make sure to subscribe for more insights and deeper dives into the world of politics. Chapter 4: Tech Titans, the New Age Power Brokers. In the last decade, tech companies have quietly risen to become some of the most powerful players in politics. They control the flow of information and even influence elections. Think about how much of our lives take place online, especially our political conversations. The 2020 US election was a prime example. Facebook, Google, and Twitter were major battlegrounds, with billions spent on digital ads. A New York Times article reported that Facebook alone earned over $86 million from political ads during that election cycle. That's a staggering figure. But it's not just about advertising. The algorithms these tech giants use shape what we see, often without us even realizing it. Social media platforms are designed to show you content that will keep you engaged, and sometimes that means prioritizing divisive or sensational content. A 2021 study by NYU's Center for Social Media and Politics found that posts with emotional language spread faster and wider than neutral posts. This is a huge problem when it comes to politics because it polarizes users, pushing people into echo chambers where they only hear what they already believe. This kind of influence raises serious questions about accountability. Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Meta, formerly Facebook, was called to testify before Congress multiple times in recent years. During one hearing, Senator Lindsey Graham asked him, "Would you say you're more powerful than the government?" Zuckerberg laughed off the question, but the truth is, these tech companies are more influential than many realize. Google controls nearly 90% of the global search engine market, according to StatCounter. That means they have the power to prioritize certain information over others. If you control what people see when they search for political information, you control how they make decisions. Former Google employee Tristan Harris once said, "Never before in history have 50 designers made decisions that would have an impact on 2 billion people." That's mind-blowing when you think about it. These tech giants aren't just influencing what we see, they're also gathering massive amounts of data about us. That data can be used to target political ads with pinpoint accuracy. It's called micro-targeting, and it's one of the most powerful tools in modern politics. So, while we might elect politicians, it's possible that tech companies are the ones driving political trends behind the scenes. If this exploration of who's really in charge has sparked your curiosity, don't forget to subscribe. Stay tuned for more insights and deeper dives into the complex world of politics. Together, we can uncover the truths that shape our lives.